Hi, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. The last two videos I posted most recently were like vlog style, like an apartment tour, and then I did like my trip to Austin recently. This is going to be a bit different. It's going to be about 4 books I think you can read to start your journey towards enlightenment or your self-healing journey. The first one I think that really changed my life and changed the trajectory of like my book reading path was the book that I read the year that I graduated from college, my undergraduate. It's All About Love by Bell Hooks. This book really taught me about inner child work, like indirectly. She talks about a lot of different concepts of love, loving yourself, loving others, raising children, what it means to be a parent, and what things you learned in childhood that could potentially lead you to being jaded, or just having bad feelings around feelings of love or thoughts of it and fear of partnership and things like that. Wow, it still has my very first plane ticket to New York in it. I bought this in Strand, the Strand bookstore in New York City, the first time I went there, and I spent that summer reading it, and then I put it down and picked it up the summer that I graduated. And I think this book gets a lot of good attention because it is so helpful and it is so not enlightening, I don't want to use that word, but like, I guess, it's just really good. I don't know what the other words, any words to use to describe it. I have notes all throughout it. I stopped, you can tell that I got into it because I stopped writing notes on it. I just was really intrigued by the things that she was saying. Like she talks about community building, how to create not like non-sexual or romantic and more platonic relationships around love and things like that. And I love this book. But it is a bit dense in the language. She's a scholar, so I mean, it is what it is. But if you don't be afraid of the language of a book, and don't let the language in the book keep you from reading it. I think it's a good way to challenge our knowledge and our learning and to continue to learn. So if you are afraid of reading books because you're afraid of how dense the language is, all books are going to have different language. All people write and read and talk in different styles, and you shouldn't let it keep you from reading a book. But the first one for me is All About Love. The second book I read that really changed my perspective on life is the Crunk Feminist Collective. This book was, oh my gosh, like this book is a co-creation of a lot of different authors. There is a few, let me just see if I can find a few of their names. Robin Boylorn is one of my favorite writers and scholars, and she has a few passages in here. Brittany Cooper also has her own line of work that you should probably read about Black feminism and race theory and things like that. Who else? Susanna Morris, another great author and scholar. And this is just a recollection of it says their names here: Brittany Cooper, Susan Morris, and Robin Boylorn. There you go. It's a collective of crunk feminists, as they like to call themselves, or just Black feminists who are scholars, women of color who are scholars. It's about their experiences in the scholarly community. And I was in college working as a researcher, writing my research papers up and presenting at all different kinds of things, and nobody really cared about my work because it was all about race and feminism. And their stories really spoke to me because they were about the things I was experiencing and didn't have the language to say I was experiencing. I didn't know how to describe them to people who weren't in the academic space. And so they just really beautifully synonymized everything I was feeling, everything that I was going through. This is actually my second copy of this book because I love it that much. I bought another one because I thought I lost my other one, and I found it at my parents' house. So I have 2 copies of this book, but I would gladly let anyone borrow the second copy because I just love it that much. It's phenomenal. I love it. They talk about some triggering things, like the Zimmerman case, and their thoughts about how he was allowed to go free and things like that. And I think as a Black person in America, you can really just attest to this. The feelings that are spoken about in this book, the experiences that they've had, especially if you're a first-generation college student or a college student of color in a PWI, which is a majority white college or a predominantly white institution. That's what PWI stands for. But it just says what's right here: complex intersectional essays by feminists who love hip-hop and hate sexism. It also breaks down a couple music videos and how degrading they were to women. I think it's so relevant to today's world, where we have people like DaBaby who are just completely disrespecting LGBTQ plus communities and women, and just being allowed to have a career. I mean, they say it best in this book. If you have any qualms about things like that, or if you want to discover more of it, this is it right here. It's a really good journey to go on with these women through their lives and their experiences. And if you've had these experiences, it's gonna speak to you. The second book I'm gonna recommend is kind of cliche, but it is You Are a Badass: How to Stop Doubting Your Greatness and Start Living an Awesome Life. Now, I have not finished this book, and I have not finished this book. The last two books I haven't finished. But from what I've read so far, I have taken so much from this book. It gives you a list of 7 things, I believe it's 7, I want 8 things that you should do in order to get clear on who you are and what your calling is. And that was the part that really resonated with me. Number 1, be the alien. I'm just gonna read them off to you. Take the first right step. And you can read more about them. Do your best wherever you are at. Do not reinvent the wheel. That sounds pretty self-explanatory. And 5, don't get caught up in the thunderbolt hype. 6, listen to your intuition. And 7, follow your fantasies. 8, simply just love yourself. Like, it sounds like there's 8 things, right? Very simple things that you should do, but the way that they break it down and the way that makes sense of everything, I just think it's great. It creates lots of different steps you can implement into your life to make sure that you are clear on where you want to go, getting there and staying there. And getting there with your work and obviously your manifestation, but also staying there in the thought patterns that you allow in your mind and the energy that you put out into the world, the things that you create, the words that you use to enunciate and describe your visions. All of those things matter. And this book is informed by this book. Like, this book is heavily influencing this book. So as I was reading this, I realized that this book was essential. So this is the 4 agreements. And the 4 agreements are essentially the same thing as this, right? Giving you clear-cut steps on how to create a life worth living. Freeing yourself from the standards of society, freeing yourself from the judgment of society, and freeing yourself from the inner child that's been damaged and continues to rear its ugly head in your everyday life. This one, it's a very simple 4 agreements. It's very simple. The 4 agreements are to be impeccable with your word, take nothing personally, don't make assumptions, and the last one I'm still working through is, let me just go back. Sorry. I'm trying to find the 5th. Okay. Always do your best. So that's be impeccable with your word, take nothing personally, don't make assumptions, always do your best. Again, there are very simple agreements to make, but the way that the author breaks down each of those things and the implications of doing those things makes you realize how much you've been affected by society. without even knowing it, you're constantly thinking about what other people think about you. You're constantly thinking about the way that you move through the world, and you're just existing. And we're all just existing in this world. We're all just existing in this life. And we're constantly judging ourselves and other people based on the societal norms that are thrust upon us from birth. Even if we don't agree with them, even if we don't necessarily like them, we are always judging ourselves and others based on those things. And our thought patterns, our words, our actions, and our inactions all lead us down a very similar path. Now, if you're a religious person, I'm gonna challenge you to not allow your religion to get in the way of your path towards enlightenment. Enlightenment looks different for everybody. So if you're a religious person, you can find enlightenment in maybe in other ways. But these books are probably not going to be the best role model for you. This book you can still read, but this book is going to challenge you a bit more than I think you might want. And so will these books. They're all great. They really are. They are some of the books, some of my most favorite books that I've ever read. And I was in grad school. I've read many books, and none of them have ever spoken to me the way these have. And there's also one more, and that's going to be Souls of Black Folks by W.E. Du Bois. That was the very first sociologist I ever read that really talked about my experiences and embodied the things I wanted to be as a sociologist, but they were also a man. And so these women, and this woman, Bell Hooks, also talked about sociology from a different lens and used the term feminism. And that wasn't something that I would necessarily align myself with. But at the time, I just think that these two books just were, I guess, monumental in my journey towards self-discovery and really being like, how can I live a life that's not harmed by other people's judgments, and how can I stop judging myself for being harmed by other people's judgments and their harshness and their assumptions. So yeah, I mean, these books are going to do that for you. And if you enjoyed this video, or just if you also found these books helpful or have read them or want to read them, please let me know where you are in your journey, and please also let me know your thoughts on them. What is your favorite chapter? What's your favorite passage in Crunk Feminist Collective? Because I have a lot. We can talk about them. And where are you in your journey towards being a badass? I'm interested in all those things. I want to talk. I want to build a community, and I want to get to know people on the internet or in real life. So if you are a bookworm, a nerd, and you just love spirituality and learning and this life journey, let me know and we can create together. But thank you for watching. This is a very short, quick video, but I just wanted to share these with you and hopefully get your thoughts on them. So yeah, that's it. Bye.